The diplomatic chamber aboard the orbital station Harmony fell silent as the towering Talar ambassador entered. His reflective exoskeleton caught the artificial light, sending rainbow patterns across the walls. 3 humans stood waiting, trying not to show their nervousness. "The humans send only 3 representatives?" Ambassador Sock remarked, his voice clicking through the translator drone hovering nearby. He stood nearly 2 meters tall, his forearms folded in what the humans had learned was a gesture of superiority. The human delegation consisted of Ambassador Kim, a veteran diplomat with 30 years of experience, Dr. Lee, a quiet xenolinguist with silver-streaked hair, and Admiral Choi, who stood rigid in her formal blue uniform. They had prepared for this meeting for months, but nothing could prepare them for the reality of meeting the Taylor Confederation. "We bring greetings from Earth," Ambassador Kim said, bowing slightly. "We hope this meeting marks the beginning of friendship between our worlds." The lead Taylor, who called himself Speaker Dole, made a sound like small stones falling onto metal. The translator interpreted this as laughter. "Friendship is a concept for equals," Speaker Dole said. "Your species has barely achieved system travel. The Taylor have ruled 200 worlds for 5,000 years. The meeting continued with similar small humiliations. When Admiral Choi presented data on Earth's defense capabilities, hoping to establish mutual respect, Speaker Dole turned to his assistants and spoke in a different language. The translator drones did not convert his words, but the dismissive gestures made the meaning clear. During a brief recess, the humans gathered in their private chamber. "They're not even trying to hide their contempt," Admiral Choi said, her face flushed with anger. "Did you see how they mocked our ship designs?" Ambassador Kim nodded tiredly. "We expected this. New species always face this treatment. We must be patient." But Dr. Lee wasn't listening to them. She sat at the small desk, replaying recordings of the Talar speaking among themselves. Her eyes widened as she focused on certain sounds. "Something strange is happening," she finally said. "When they speak to each other, not through the translators, I hear patterns that shouldn't be there." "What do you mean?" Ambassador Kim asked. "The Taylor are using 2 different languages. One is their trade language. But when they think we aren't paying attention, they switch to something older, something that sounds familiar." Admiral Choi frowned. "Familiar how?" "I can't explain it yet. But certain sounds, certain patterns, they remind me of very old human language structures, proto-languages from Earth's ancient past." "That's impossible," Ambassador Kim said. "We've never met before." "Unless we have," Dr. Lee whispered. "There are myths in many human cultures about visitors from the stars who came long ago." Their conversation was interrupted when the door slid open. Speaker Dole entered without announcing himself, another sign of disrespect. "The terms of our initial trade agreement are prepared," he said. "We will allow limited human expansion to 3 nearby star systems. In exchange, we require access to Earth's water resources." Ambassador Kim recognized the unfair deal immediately. "We would need to discuss such significant terms with our government." Speaker Dole's upper arms waved dismissively. "Of course. Your primitive communication systems require time. We will wait." When he left, Dr. Lee quickly inserted a data stick into her tablet. "I recorded everything they said to each other. I need more samples of their ceremonial language." That night, instead of sleeping, Dr. Lee analyzed the recordings. She compared the sounds to every known human language and proto-language in the database. Around 3 a.m., her computer pinged with results that made her sit up straight. The Taylors' private language shared unmistakable phonetic patterns with ancient human language roots, not just random similarities, systematic, structural connections that couldn't be coincidence. She immediately called Ambassador Kim and Admiral Choi to her room. They arrived looking tired and concerned. "Look at this," Dr. Lee said, displaying comparative sound patterns on her screen. The Taylor's ceremonial language shares root structures with Proto-Korean and ancient Altaic languages. It's like finding a linguistic missing link. "How is that possible?" Admiral Choi asked. "Only one explanation makes sense," Dr. Lee replied. The Taylor, or some group related to them, visited Earth thousands of years ago. They influenced our earliest languages, maybe even guided our early development. Ambassador Kim stared at the evidence. If you're right, this changes everything we know about human history. And, Admiral Choi added with the first smile they'd seen since arriving, it might just change how the Taylor see us. Dr. Lee nodded. They're laughing at us in a language their ancestors gave to ours. I think it's time we surprise them with what humans remember. 3 days had passed since Dr. Lee's discovery. In their small, secured room aboard the Harmony station, the human team worked tirelessly. The walls were now covered with comparative language charts, sound wave patterns, and ancient Earth symbols that matched fragments of Taylor script. Look at this root structure, Dr. Lee said, pointing to a holographic display. This Tyler ceremonial word for star journey shares the same base as an ancient Korean term for celestial movement. Not similar, identical. Ambassador Kim rubbed his tired eyes. I've contacted Earth. They're sending Dr. Bae, the expert on prehistoric language diffusion. She arrives tomorrow. Admiral Choi stood by the window, watching Taylor ships glide past the station. The Taylor delegation has been pushing for an answer on their unfair trade proposal. They're getting impatient. Let them wait, Dr. Lee said, her voice firmer than her colleagues had ever heard. We need more time. When Dr. Bae arrived, she brought additional evidence that stunned the team. She carried ancient stone tablets from a Korean archaeological site that had puzzled researchers for decades. The markings had been classified as decorative, but when compared to Taylor's script, the connection was undeniable. These tablets date back over 6,000 years, Dr. Bae explained. The patterns were found in a cave alongside what we now believe were star maps. Dr. Lee carefully touched the ancient stone. This symbol here appears in the Taylor greeting ceremony. They touch their upper right arm in the same pattern. For the next 2 days, the linguists worked together, reconstructing what they now called the ancestor tongue. They identified 47 core sounds and basic grammatical structures. Most importantly, they found recurring phrases in both ancient Earth artifacts and modern Taylor ceremonial speech. Our myths speak of the sky people who came during the time of Great Cold, Dr. Bae said, showing images of cave paintings. They were described as tall with many limbs, who taught humans to build better shelters and navigate by stars. The lie? Taylor historical records might mention this contact, Admiral Choi suggested. But they'd never share those with us willingly. Ambassador Kim nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps their history, like ours, records this as myth rather than fact. After thousands of years, even the Tylar might have forgotten the truth. On the 5th day, they were joined by Dr. Park, an expert in xenobiology who had been studying the limited medical data shared by the Taylor. His findings added another piece to the puzzle. Taylor DNA equivalent structures have unusual stability, he explained. They could survive extreme conditions, like interstellar travel in primitive ships. And this is interesting. Their biology shows signs of adaptation to different atmospheric conditions than their homeworld currently has. As if they evolved elsewhere first? Dr. Lee asked. Possibly. Or they underwent significant biological changes during a period of their history. Perhaps during a time of migration or exile. Admiral Choi connected the dots. So they might have come to Earth as refugees, not conquerors. It aligns with our oldest myths, Dr. Bae agreed. The sky. People were said to be fleeing something terrible. They stayed for 3 generations before departing again. That evening, while the others rested, Dr. Lee and Dr. Bae practiced speaking the reconstructed language. The sounds were difficult for human vocal cords, but they persisted. They recorded themselves and played it back, making adjustments until the computer confirmed their pronunciation matched Taylor's speech patterns. Tomorrow we begin direct practice with Taylor recordings, Dr. Lee said. We need to master at least basic phrases before the next negotiation session. I found something else, Dr. Bae said quietly. She showed Dr. Lee an ancient poem, translated from early Proto-Korean. This describes the departure of the sky people. It says they promise to return when the circle of stars completes its journey. Dr. Lee's eyes widened. The galactic year. the time it takes our solar system to circle the galaxy once. About 225 million years, Dr. Bay confirmed. But they might measure differently. What if they meant when our star returned to proximity with theirs? That would pass every few thousand years, Dr. Lee finished, which would be right about now. The next morning, Ambassador Kim called an emergency meeting. The Taylor have demanded our answer today. They're threatening to leave if we don't accept their terms. Dr. Lee looked around at her colleagues. We're not ready. I need more time to perfect the pronunciation. We don't have more time, Admiral Choi said firmly. We need to use what we have. Dr. Bay placed a hand on Dr. Lee's shoulder. It's enough. I've been studying their facial expressions. When they speak the ancestor tongue among themselves, their antenna positions change. We'll know immediately if they understand you. Ambassador Kim nodded. Then we have our plan. When they mock us in their sacred language today, we'll answer in the same tongue. Let's see how they react when humans speak the dead language of their ancestors. The Grand Council chamber aboard the Harmony station gleamed under soft blue lights. 7 Taylor representatives sat on one side of the curved table, their exoskeletons polished to a mirror shine for the formal occasion. The 4 humans entered together, dressed in their best diplomatic attire. Ambassador Kim led the human delegation, followed by Admiral Choi, Dr. Lee, and Dr. Bay. They took their seats calmly, though Dr. Lee's hands trembled slightly as she placed her tablet on the table. The humans have finally arrived, Speaker Dahl said through the translator drone. We are pleased you have considered our generous offer. We have reviewed your proposal carefully, Ambassador Kim replied. We have some concerns about the terms. Speaker Dahl's forearms moved in a dismissive gesture. Concerns are natural for a species new to galactic diplomacy. The terms are standard for civilizations at your development stage. Admiral Choi placed a data crystal on the table. We've prepared a counter-proposal that better reflects a balanced relationship. The Taylor second-in-command, Subspeaker Jun, picked up the crystal with obvious reluctance. After scanning it briefly, he turned to Speaker Dahl and spoke in the Bo ancestor tongue, deliberately bypassing the translator drones. These dirt crawlers seek equal standing, he said in the ancient language. They offer nothing of value yet demand respect they have not earned. Speaker Dahl's antennae twitched in amusement. He replied in the same language. Their ignorance is expected. They know nothing of the grand cycles or their proper place. Press them harder. They will yield when threatened. The humans maintained perfect poker faces, just as they had practiced. Ambassador Kim made a show of waiting patiently for the Taylor to finish their private conversation. When Speaker Dahl turned back to the humans, his voice was firm through the translator. Your counterproposal is unacceptable. The Taylor Confederation has standard protocols for new species. You must accept our original terms, or we will withdraw our diplomatic presence entirely. A tense silence filled the chamber. The Taylor clearly expected the humans to back down immediately. Ambassador Kim nodded slowly, then looked at Dr. Lee. Doctor, perhaps you could offer your perspective on historical precedent. Dr. Lee took a deep breath and stood. She had rehearsed this moment dozens of times, but now that it had arrived, her heart pounded painfully in her chest. She looked directly at Speaker Dahl and spoke in clear, precisely pronounced words of the ancestor tongue. The circle of stars completes its journey, as was promised by those who walked among us when the world was young. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Speaker Dahl's entire body went rigid. Subspeaker Jun rose halfway from his seat, his forearms frozen in positions of alarm. The other Taylor made high-pitched clicking sounds that the translator did not. Convert Dr. Lee continued in the ancient language. We remember the time when your kind sought refuge among the mountains of our world. We remember the wisdom you shared and the promise of return. Impossible, Speaker Dahl said, now speaking galactic standard so the translators would function. No non-Taylor can pronounce the sacred language. This is some trick. Dr. Bay spoke next, also in the ancestor tongue. No trick, honored speaker. We carry the memory of your ancestors in our oldest words and stories. The Taylor delegation fell into chaos. Two members rushed from the room while others began speaking rapidly to each other, too fast for even Dr. Lee to follow completely. Speaker Doll's color had changed from its normal greenish blue to a pale, ashy white. "How do you know these words?" he demanded. "The sacred language is known only to those of pure lineage who study for decades." "Because your ancestors taught our ancestors," Admiral Choi said in standard language. "When they lived among us thousands of years ago." "Ambassador," Kim calmly placed an image projector on the table. It displayed the ancient cave paintings alongside Talar ceremonial symbols. The similarities were unmistakable. "We have evidence of your people's time on Earth," he explained. "Not as conquerors, but as refugees and teachers." Speaker Doll's antennae drooped, a sign of extreme shock or distress. "This knowledge is restricted even among our own kind. Only the high scholars and religious elders have access to the complete historical records of the Great Exodus." Dr. Lee switched back to standard language. "We don't know why your ancestors left our world or why this history seems to have been hidden. But we do know that humans and Taylor share a connection that predates our written histories." Subspeaker. Jun found his voice, though it wavered. "This changes everything. The High Council must be informed immediately. The religious elders must verify these claims." "We agree," Ambassador Kim said. "We welcome a full historical and linguistic investigation by your scholars. In the meantime, perhaps we could approach our diplomatic relations with this new understanding in mind." Speaker Doll had regained some of his composure. He regarded the humans with completely different eyes now, not with contempt, but with something approaching fear or awe. "The negotiations will be suspended until the elders arrive," he announced. "What you have revealed today, it challenges the very foundation of our civilization's origin stories." As the Talar hurriedly left the chamber, Admiral Choi leaned toward Dr. Lee. "I'd say your pronunciation was good enough." 3 days after the shocking revelation, the Harmony Station buzzed with unprecedented activity. Talar ships arrived hourly, bringing historians, linguists, and religious leaders from their homeworld. The original diplomatic mission had transformed into something far more significant. Dr. Lee stood before a panel of Taylor scholars in what had once been a storage room, now converted into a research space. Projected on the wall were images of ancient Earth artifacts alongside Talar ceremonial items. The similarities were striking. "This stone tablet was found in Eastern Asia," Dr. Lee explained, pointing to a 6,000-year-old artifact. "These markings match exactly with the first prayer in your Book of Beginnings." Elder Nam, the oldest Taylor present and head of their religious council, leaned forward on his walking staff. His exoskeleton had faded to a pale blue with age. "The first prayer speaks of the time of wandering," he said, his voice raspy with emotion. "Our ancestors believed these words were given by the Creator at the dawn of our history. Yet here they are, carved by human hands thousands of years ago," Dr. Bay added gently. In another room, Admiral Choi watched as Taylor historians examined DNA evidence presented by Dr. Park. The xenobiologists from both species had been working non-stop, comparing genetic markers and evolutionary patterns. "These adaptations in Taylor physiology," Dr. Park explained, "suggest your species underwent rapid evolutionary changes approximately 10,000 Earth years ago. This aligns with the period when your historical records mention the Great Exodus." The lead Taylor scientist, researcher Doe, nodded slowly. "Our historical texts speak of a cosmic catastrophe that forced our ancestors to flee their original home. For generations they traveled among the stars in great ships, and some arrived on Earth," Admiral Choi concluded. "It appears so," researcher Du admitted, "though this contradicts our official histories, which claim our species evolved entirely on our current homeworld." Meanwhile, Ambassador Kim faced the most difficult conversation in the station's main conference room. He sat across from not only Speaker Doll but also High Commander Bach, who had arrived from the Taylor capital with urgent questions. "If what you claim is true," High Commander Bach said, his voice cold and steady, "then human DNA should contain traces of Taylor influence." It doesn't, Ambassador Kim replied honestly. Your ancestors didn't interbreed with ours. But they did. Live among us, teach us, and shape our earliest civilizations. Why would they do this? Speaker Dahl asked, genuinely confused. Our current policies strictly forbid cultural interference with developing species. Perhaps those policies developed because of what happened on Earth, Ambassador Kim suggested. Your ancestors may have seen their influence on our development and later decided such interference was wrong. As these conversations continued across the station, news of the human revelations spread throughout the Taylor Confederation. Public reaction was mixed and intense. Some Taylor religious groups declared humans to be sacred beings, connected to their most ancient history. Others called for immediate withdrawal from all contact, seeing humans as a threat to their established view of history. After a week of intense research, Elder Nam requested a formal gathering of all delegates. The station's largest chamber was filled with representatives from both species. The tension in the room was palpable. Elder Nam stood at the center, his ancient frame supported by two younger assistants. In his hands he held a small crystal cube, the most sacred relic in Taylor culture. This memory crystal contains the last recordings of those we call the Travelers, he announced. For thousands of years, only the highest religious authorities were permitted to view its contents. He placed the crystal in a reader. A holographic image appeared above it, a recording of a Taylor much different from those present. Its exoskeleton was simpler, its limbs slightly different in proportion. The ancient Taylor spoke in the ancestor tongue. Dr. Lee and Dr. Bay listened intently, understanding most of what was said. We leave this final message as we prepare to rejoin our people, the recorded figure said. The humans have given us shelter for 3 generations. We have taught them what we could of stars and growing food. They learn quickly. Perhaps someday they will reach the stars and find our descendants. If so, remember they were kind when we needed kindness. When the message ended, silence filled the chamber. Elder Nam's antennae drooped in what humans now recognized as deep emotion. We must rewrite our histories, he said finally. The humans are not new children of the galaxy to be patronized. They are old friends we had forgotten. Researcher Du stepped forward. Not all will accept this easily. Some factions already protest, claiming the humans falsified this evidence. Then we must show them the truth, Elder Nam replied. I will open the memory crystal archives to human scholars. Together we will reconstruct our shared past. Ambassador Kim exchanged glances with his team. This was far more than they had hoped for when they first discovered the linguistic connection. We accept this honor, he said, and propose that our first joint project should be a mission to the stars mentioned in both our ancient texts, the place your ancestors called first home. 6 months after the revelation that changed 2 civilizations, Dr. Lee stood on the observation deck of the Harmony station. The view had changed dramatically. Where once a handful of ships moved cautiously around each other, now hundreds of vessels from both species worked together in complex docking patterns. Still hard to believe, Admiral Choi said, joining her at the window. Dr. Lee nodded. From barely tolerating us to calling us ancient friends in half a year. The station itself had been expanded to 3 times its original size. New research, wings, cultural exchange centers, and joint military training facilities had been added as the relationship between humans and Taylor evolved at remarkable speed. The joint expedition leaves tomorrow, Admiral Choi said. Are you ready? As ready as I'll ever be, Dr. Lee replied. First human Taylor mission to search for the original Taylor homeworld. I never imagined I'd be part of something like this. Below, them in the main docking bay, the expedition ship Shared Memory gleamed under the work lights. It combined the best technology from both civilizations, Taylor faster-than-light drives with human adaptive navigation systems. The crew would be mixed, with 20 humans and 20 Taylor working together for what might be a year-long journey. Later that day, Dr. Lee met with Elder Gan, who had replaced Elder Nam as the head of the Taylor cultural delegation after the O. Older Taylor had returned home to update their historical records. Our linguists have completed the unified dictionary, Elder Gan said, presenting Dr. Lee with a small crystal data cube. 5,000 shared root words between ancient human languages and the ancestor tongue. This will help us communicate better during the expedition, Dr. Lee said, accepting the gift, though I still struggle with some of the deeper throat sounds. Elder Gan's antennae wiggled in what humans now recognized as gentle amusement. You speak better than many, young Taylor. The sacred sounds were being lost even among our people. Your discovery has revived interest in our oldest traditions. Not all interactions were so positive. That evening, Dr. Lee walked through the station's Aidim Central Plaza and noticed a small group of Tylar wearing distinctive red markings on their exoskeletons. They belonged to the purist faction that rejected the new human-Talar relationship. The blood remains pure. One of them clicked as she passed, deliberately using a dialect of the ancestor tongue that few humans had mastered. Dr. Lee surprised them by responding in the same obscure dialect, yet knowledge flows across all boundaries. And the D, Taylor stepped back, clearly shocked that she understood. Most moved away quickly, but one lingered. I am Researcher Ree, he said, switching to standard language. Even among those who question this new alliance, your knowledge commands respect. Knowledge should build bridges, not walls, Dr. Lee replied. Perhaps, Researcher Ree admitted, but change comes at a cost. Some fear what we might lose in this rush to embrace humans as ancient friends. This kind of conversation was happening throughout Talar society. News reports showed both massive celebrations of the reunion and protests against historical revision. The Talar government had even experienced its first leadership challenge in 300 years as conservative, and progressive factions argued over how to proceed. The morning of the expedition's departure arrived with ceremonial fanfare. Ambassador Kim, who had been named Earth's first formal ambassador to the Talar Confederation, gave a short speech alongside Speaker Jun, who had replaced Speaker Dahl after the latter's resignation. Today we begin a journey to find where both our stories began, Ambassador Kim said, not as superior and inferior species, but as fellow travelers in the great mystery of life. The mixed crew boarded the ship while thousands watched from the station and on broadcasts sent to both Earth and the Talar homeworld. Dr. Lee found herself assigned a cabin next to Senior Researcher Tay, one of the Talar's most respected archaeologists. Yamemuro, never thought I would work with humans, Researcher Tay admitted as they stored their equipment. In our historical archives, there were hints about the Exodus and the planets our ancestors visited, but they were restricted knowledge. Why hide such important history? Dr. Lee asked. Pride, perhaps, or shame at needing help from a lesser species. Researcher Tay's color shifted to a thoughtful purple. Or maybe fear that if we acknowledged one part of our mythology as real, we would need to question all of it. As the ship prepared for departure, Dr. Lee joined the crew in the main observation lounge. Humans and Taylor stood side by side, watching as the Harmony station grew smaller behind them. Captain Min, the human commander sharing leadership with a Taylor co-captain, activated the ship-wide communication system. Crew of the shared memory, we begin a historic journey today, she said. Our destination is the star system both our peoples mention in our oldest stories. What humans called the birthplace of the Sky People, and what Tylar know as First Shell. Dr. Lee felt a hand on her shoulder. Dr. Bay had joined her, at the window. Do you think we'll really find their original homeworld? Dr. Bay asked quietly. I don't know, Dr. Lee replied. But looking for it together, that's what matters. 6 months ago, they laughed at us for being primitive. Now we're teaching each other our oldest words and searching for our shared origins. The stars stretched and blurred as the ship entered faster than light travel. Humans and Taylor watched together as they began their journey to find the beginning. Of both their stories, Elder Nam's color brightened. Yes, it is time to find our beginnings,